We're so excited to welcome in the nest someone who really doesn't need much of an introduction, Michael Vick. You are so many football fans' favorite player to watch, to play on Madden. Who are some of your favorite Falcons or maybe NFL players to watch in today's NFL?
Starting with us, starting with the Falcons, still love watching Matt Ryan go out every Sunday, Monday, and Thursday, trying to put it together. A lot of moving parts on the team. Calvin Ridley is still a big attraction. We'll continue to be a focal point for this team, but it's guys all across the NFL that I love watching. Make me want to wake up on Sundays and talk about it, analyze it, and definitely watch it, from Patrick Mahomes to Josh Allen. Just stating the obvious. And it's a bunch of other guys, a plethora of guys on the offensive side of the ball, defensive side of the ball, Aaron Donald, and still Patrick Peterson and all my guys, man. So I love watching those dudes.
So, Mike, man, when you look back on your career, right, and you had a damn good one now, but when you look back, what was your favorite play that you had in your career?
Man, there was so many of them, it's hard to pinpoint one. But the one I always revert back to is a play when I was in Atlanta. We was playing against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on the road, and I was actually in the pocket looking downfield, trying to find a receiver, and had some pressure and did two spin moves in the pocket while looking downfield. Like it was the most amazing thing, even when I watch it to this day. And it's one of my highlights that's never really shown, which says a lot, obviously, but it's one of my favorites, man. And then I think, the run against Minnesota was amazing too, because, it's overtime. As a kid, you always think about ending the game in overtime and sending the team packing. I always wanted to end the game and run off to the sunset, which for us is the locker room. Always wanted to do that, and I had a chance to do that day, so it was pretty cool.
I'm going to take you back to two specific things that I wanted to ask you about. Your first touchdown as a pro was September 2001. It was that first game after 9/11 happened. Obviously, a lot of emotion kind of in that game. It's now the 20th anniversary of that, if you can believe it. What was it like playing in that game, that first game after 9/11, and for you to have your first touchdown as a pro in that game?
I would just remember being super nervous. Like I was not feeling that moment. As a rookie, when you don't get all the reps and you're the second team quarterback, it's kind of difficult to go from practice to a game-like situation and really be in the moment. So I came off the bench cold. It was the first time in maybe in my entire life where I came off the bench, or I had the spot play. So the feelings was different, the emotions was different, but when I got in and the ball was snapped, it was like old times, and reverted back to my old ways. And I think I threw a touchdown pass to Algie Crumpler, left corner of the end zone, and then had some other plays in the game that were positive. So I think I made a contribution that day that I was appreciative of.
When you think back to that game and kind of the emotion surrounding it, just the country where they were at the moment, did you feel any of that also in addition to kind of your nerves in that moment?
Yeah, it was nerve-wracking. It was a very nerve-wracking week, I remember. I think the week before, we didn't have a game, or, we had all the controversial things happening. And then I remember us just not being in full-fledged game mode. But, because so many people was being affected by what was happening and what was going on, it was hard to have a high level of concentration. And to play in the NFL, you got to be able to come into a game on, Sunday, Monday, Thursday and be fully focused. And, we wasn't that. We was able to, clear our conscience and go out there, and actually football helped us get through those difficult times, as well as probably the rest of the country.
Yeah, I remember those moments in the baseball games that happened after 9/11. Definitely kind of helps us all get through that. The other game I wanted to ask you about was that Packers game in 2002, that wildcard game. You guys served in their first Lambeau Field. Yeah. What was that game like? Take us back to that.
It's one of my favorite games in my career. I could tell you that. I just remember that night being Just real calm, real chill. Coming in as the underdog, our expectations of ourselves were high. On the other side, they weren't as high. They expected to beat us that night, and for all the right reasons, I can understand that. We all understood that they had Brent Favre, the great, over there. But to me, having a chance to interview with John Madden the night before, that was a surreal moment for me. I grew up watching John, a big fan of John and Fox, and his voice was like what made football on Sundays. And when I walked into that meeting, that pregame meeting to speak with him, and I want to say Pat Summerall was in there as well, and I was a big fan of him if I'm not mistaken. But it was just a tone setter, for what was going to happen the next day. And I knew I had to show off. A lot of people was watching. The game was highly televised, and you had a legend on the other side. And I'm 22 years old, wanting to obtain that type of status at some point in my career. So that was a point right there where I had to pretty much put my foot on the pedal and show the world how good we were as a team.
Now, Mike, when you talk about today's football, man, I got to take you to today's football, right? You see the numbers that these QBs are putting up with their arm, with their legs. You see the NFL game is tailored more towards the offensive side of the ball. I want to know, the people want to know, what would Mike Vick's numbers be like in today's NFL game?
Golly, who knows? But obviously you got to end up with the right coach and the right system. And
that's right.
It's funny because you look at an offense like the Arizona Cardinals and what they're doing. You got a coach, and Cliff Kingsbury, who's running a different type of system than what Andy Reid is running. So, I would say this: if I was in Cliff Kingsbury's system, my numbers would probably look different. I'd probably look different as a player. If I was in Andy's system, I would not say that I would look like Patrick Mahomes at all, because he's on a totally different level than anybody that ever played the game of quarterback. We were all good in our own rights, but some guys display it differently. So I think I would have had success if I was with Andy Reid, if I was with Cliff Kingsbury. You look at a Buffalo Bills offense right now and the way Josh Allen is performing, a lot of spread. So I think, man, just the numbers would have been astronomical for sure. Very difficult to deal with, to answer your question. And, I did a good job of picking up, offenses. Might have took, a month or two, but, I probably went through like 7 in my entire career, and I think I played well in all of them. Definitely won a game in every single one of them I was in. So I don't think anything would have been different.
Was there a moment in your playing career that you felt like, all right, I've arrived. This is my moment. I belong here?
Yeah, I think it was maybe week 6 or 7 in 2002, the year that we went to the playoffs and was able to beat Green Bay. But it was a moment that season where Dan Reeves and we kind of had a moment on the sideline where we had an exchange of words, and it was for the better of the team. And I think Coach understood what I was trying to convey in my message on the sideline in that short period of time. And he instantly changed the way he called plays. He instantly changed the way he installed plays. From that day forward, from that moment on, I became an MVP caliber player. And that's because my coach understood what I needed, what I wanted, and he took advantage of my talent. So that game versus the Carolina Panthers, I think it was week 5 or 6, just changed the whole outlook of my game. It changed the way I felt coming into a game, and certainly from a confidence perspective, I felt like I could dominate the game on any given day.
I'm curious, when you played, who were your favorite targets? You're rolling out. Who is the guy you're kind of looking for there?
Brian Finneran.
My boy, Big Finn.
I mean, hey, bro,
I already know.
Finn was reliable.
Very.
Finn was reliable, bro.
Very.
In 2002, I had Sean Jefferson, Brian Finneran, and Algie Crumpler. Those were my receivers that year. And we had Trevor Gaylor, you know, somebody that, you know, probably wouldn't relate, people wouldn't know. But, you know, I look at the guys now and the way they play the game and the receivers that they play with, they're so blessed. Because my first couple of years, I didn't have receivers. I didn't have reliable receivers. My guys were reliable, but they wasn't speedsters. They wasn't, you know, the most talented. They were just smart, good football players. And, you know, that's why I had so much respect for those guys. I had so much respect and confidence in Brian Finneran throughout our time together that he was like, you know, a safety valve on the field, him and Algie. And the rest of those guys, they all played a major role in our success.
Man, it's so funny you bring up all three of those guys because I know Algie really well. I played with Finn. Finn was one of my mentors when I came in. But Sean Jefferson, Sean coached me in Tennessee. And I talk to Sean all the time now. He the receiver
Great
coach
dude.
out of Arizona. But one thing I love about Sean is that he always kept it real with his players at all time. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And we can respect that as a player. And we'll run through a brick wall for Sean because we knew at the end of the day, he had our best interests and he was going to keep it 100 at all times, man.
No sugarcoating. Sean don't sugarcoat anything. That's why if you look at some of the places he's coached and some of the players he's coached, they've been Pro Bowlers, perennial Pro Bowlers, good football players who have longevity across the league like yourself and success.
Now I want to take this thing to the city of Atlanta. I'm from the dirty South. I grew up on the south side of Atlanta. But I want to know for you, man, coming from Virginia. Yeah, coming from Virginia, what made Atlanta feel like home for you?
Man, you know what? When I think about that, it was the hospitality when I first came there. It was a different era, obviously, and you know, you had Outkast, you had T.I. was emerging on the scene, Ludacris was big. I mean, you know, those guys embraced me. You know, you know, we hung out. You know, they always made sure that I stayed focused and football was a priority. Hanging out was secondary. So they took care of me. You know, a bunch of other guys, man, who just rep the South. And then the people, even though I hadn't stepped on the field, the community was very receptive. And they always, you know, felt like the optimism was always in the air. They made me feel like I could be optimistic about the future and what we could accomplish. And that made me work even harder. That made me want to be even more successful and not let them down. So I think just on and off the field, it was just a mutual respect and a true reasoning to go out and try to have success was to make sure that, you know, one, the administration was happy, the organization, two, us as players, my teammates, and three, the fans who can all respect, you know, the hard work that was being put in.
100, that's dope.
You mentioned some of these music names that are so big in the city of Atlanta, but I feel like you are also a figure who really looms very large over this franchise, this city, and still the fans, even all these years later. How much does the support that this city and its fans still give you, how much does that mean to you?
It's amazing. A true culture was created, and Harry, you experienced it. You was in Atlanta for a number of years, and I know you've seen it at firsthand. They support us, they love us, they want nothing but the best, and if they see you out in the public, you know, you're gonna get nothing but respect. And you don't get that everywhere. I played in some places where, you know, it could be tough. You know, if you're not winning, they don't respect you. I mean, but that's anywhere. That's all across the National Football League in any city, any fan base. Our job is to make our fans proud. Yeah, they're gonna cheer, yeah, they're gonna boo at times, but at the end of the day, they're gonna be loyal. They see something going down in the street and you need their assistance. I promise you, the fan who you won't even know don't be there.
You already know.
So, you know, that love and respect, man, it's a true bond between the players and the fans.
So, Mike, I got my last two questions for you, man. Number one, which team, you know, were you playing for that you think you could have won a ring with? And then the last one I got for you, Lane Stadium. Your Virginia Tech Hokies got a big win.
We look good.
Over North Carolina, man. How hard is it for opponents to play in Lane Stadium?
It's very hard for opponents to play in Lane Stadium. You know, they got that Sandman rocking now. They ain't had that when I was playing. You know, so that's a whole different vibe now. And it's really good. cool. It's very intimidating as well. You can tell the opposing team be a little shook up. North Carolina was ranked number 9 or 10 in the country, and the quarterback Howell, Heisman Trophy candidate, he couldn't get himself together. He couldn't get his wits, and that's because that energy and that intensity. It was evident. At the beginning of the game and throughout the course of the game, it slowed down a little bit, but those guys were able to hang on, and I'm wishing them much success throughout the season. I think they're gonna continue to build off that win, which is very important. That was definitely a win where you can lay down the foundation of what it takes to win and how to win. And I think to answer your first question, who do I think I could have won a championship with in the NFL? Every team I played for. When I played for Atlanta, 2002 was a magical year. All we had to do was beat Philly in the second round of the playoffs. In 2004, we went to the NFC Championship game, so that was an opportunity right there. 05, 06, every time I stepped on the field, we had an opportunity, and we just didn't get it done. So I felt like those 2 years, especially 2002 and 2004, were years where we could have, won it all. And then in Philly, in 2010, we had a chance. Had a bad break in the game in the playoffs against Green Bay, who actually came to y'all the next week. I think beat y'all, went to Chicago, beat them, and then went and beat Pittsburgh. So, yeah, very fond, vivid memories of the things that could have happened, should have happened, but didn't.
Yeah.
So, I think those two teams were my best chances because I were the starter and did have players around me, had opportunity to build throughout the offseason to make a strong push. It just didn't happen. Luck wasn't on my side, but very illustrious career, and I appreciate everything that, I was given, everything that I earned, and all the relationships that I made.
Awesome stuff. Thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it. Really cool conversation. And for all the fans out there who want to see the full thing, be sure to check it out on fox5atlanta.com. We'll post the full thing on there. Really awesome stuff. We'll be right back on Rise Up Tonight.